All right, let's talk about one of the most compelling and honestly powerful archetypes out there, the dandy. We're going to explore how this secret power of ambiguity, being totally impossible to pin down, can be this incredible source of allure and influence.
I mean, this quote just hits the nail on the head, doesn't it? So many of us feel stuck in these boxes that society builds for us. And our attraction to these ambiguous figures, well, it comes from that exact feeling. They represent a kind of freedom that, deep down, we all want.
So, who is this captivating figure who just seems to play by their own set of rules? Let's really define what makes the dandy so alluring. Okay, so the key thing to get here is that this isn't just about clothes or fashion. A dandy is like an artist, and their masterpiece is themselves. They intentionally build a persona that just blurs all the lines, making them this fascinating puzzle that people can't help but want to solve. Now, what's so wild is how all these traits just lock together. It's the whole package. By creating this startling, one-of-a-kind image and staying mysterious, they can't be put in a box. And that hints at the freedom we just talked about. It ends up appealing to everyone because they reflect a more complex, more interesting version of a person than we usually get to see. The result? They fascinate and seduce on a massive scale. And really, this isn't just some old-timey thing. Think about the musicians or stars today who build their entire careers on being unclassifiable. It's a timeless playbook for grabbing the world's attention. To really see this in action, we've got to look at the perfect example, the silent film superstar Rudolph Valentino. And here he is. Back in the early 1920s, Valentino became a total icon. But not by being the tough, rugged, all-American hero everyone expected. No, he did it by becoming the living embodiment of this feminine dandy. He was something nobody had ever seen before. And his backstory is so important to understanding the persona. He didn't just pop up out of nowhere. After coming over from Italy, he started out as a taxi dancer in New York. You could say that was his training ground. It's where he learned firsthand how to be graceful, how to be poised, and how to be incredibly attentive to women. That experience was absolutely fundamental to the charm he later unleashed on the big screen. And this just sums it up perfectly. In a time of cinematic tough guys, Valentino was fluid, he was graceful. But you gotta pay attention to those last two words, thrillingly sinister. His appeal wasn't just about being soft, it was the mix of that delicacy with a subtle hint of danger that audiences found absolutely electric. And the effect was, well, it was real. People were literally fainting in theaters. It wasn't about some aggressive kind of seduction. It was about this focused, refined attention that felt completely new. He made people in the audience feel seen, and that was an incredibly powerful weapon. Okay, so we've seen what he did. But the big question is, why? Was it so ridiculously effective? Let's break down the actual mechanics of Valentino's feminine power. This comparison really lays it all out. The typical masculine approach, it's direct, it's forceful. You can see it coming a mile away. But the feminine dandy, that has a much more, sinister effect. And sinister here doesn't mean evil. It means subtle, almost sneaky. It lures you in with this pleasing grace, and before you even know what's happening, your defenses are down. And this is the secret sauce, right here. It's all about that intoxicating mix. You've got the flowing robes, the eye makeup, things that signal femininity, creating comfort and intrigue. But it was always paired with that undercurrent of menace, a little hint of cruelty in his characters. This constant back and forth, this ambiguity, is what created the tension that drove people absolutely wild. So let's get even more specific. How does this actually work on a psychological level? Let's dive into the psychology behind the dandy seduction. It's almost like a four-step formula. Step 1. Mirror what's often seen as feminine psychology, paying attention to detail, caring about appearance. This builds a connection, a sense of safety. Step 2, introduce that little hint of male cruelty or danger. Step 3, this powerful combo mesmerizes and totally disarms the target. And finally, step 4, once their guard is completely down, the dandy can make a traditionally bold, masculine move, which now feels exciting instead of just aggressive. And boom, this quote just wraps the entire strategy up in a nutshell. The feminine charm isn't the final move. It's the sophisticated tool used to create the opening. It's like a psychological key that unlocks the door for a much more direct kind of power.
And look, the impact of this persona, you really can't overstate it. When Valentino died suddenly at just 31 years old, over 100,000 people flooded the streets of New York for his funeral. There were reports of riots, of mass hysteria. It was this massive global outpouring of grief, all for a fantasy that he had created so masterfully.
So what's the takeaway from all this? Why does his legacy still feel so potent, even 100 years later? Well, it all comes back to one thing. He's an enduring enigma. The crazy thing is, to this day, the real Rudolph Valentino is basically a ghost. His private life, his relationships, who he really was, it's all just shrouded in layers of mystery and rumors. He never gave the world a straight answer about himself, and that's exactly why the image he built is still so powerful. It was never ruined by reality, so it just continues to seduce. And that leaves us with one last big thought. Valentino's story isn't just a fun piece of history. It makes us ask a question that feels incredibly relevant right now. In a world that is still so obsessed with putting every single person into a neat little box, what is the true, untapped power of being utterly and beautifully unreadable?